My girlfriend yelled in front of everyone, "You'll never be good enough for me." I smiled and said softly, "Maybe you're right." Then I turned around, got in my car, and drove away without looking back. Hours later, one of her friends texted me, "You know what she said after you left?" I typed back, "What?" Her reply came a few seconds later, and that one sentence shook my entire world. "My name is Ethan Clark, 29 years old. And until recently, I believed I had a stable life mapped out in front of me like a neat little road someone else had paved. I'm not flashy, not the loudest in the room, not the type to climb onto a table and demand attention. I'm steady. I work as a systems technician for a mid-sized logistics company. I like quiet mornings, black coffee, and the small rituals of an ordinary day. I always thought those traits made me reliable, someone you could build a life with. But to Madison Hale, my girlfriend of 4 years, reliability eventually became synonymous with stagnation. Madison worked in marketing for an aggressively competitive tech company in San Francisco. She had the kind of energy people described as magnetic, the kind that filled a room before she even walked into it. Ambitious wasn't just a word for her, it was a personality, a lifestyle, practically a religion. She was always reaching for the next thing, a promotion, a new circle of influential friends, a better apartment, a sleeker wardrobe, a louder kind of success. And I loved her, or at least I loved the parts of her that weren't always sprinting ahead of where I stood. Our friends used to say we balanced each other out. She brought spark. I brought calm. She brought vision. I brought grounding. And for a long time, I believed that too. I believed that the way she talked about her dreams, the way she stayed late at the office, the way she chased opportunities with a hunger I couldn't match, it was all just part of who she was. I didn't mind making room for that. I didn't mind supporting her. I didn't mind stepping into the quieter role if it meant we were moving forward together. But somewhere along the way, together turned into behind her. And eventually, behind her turned into not good enough. The night everything detonated was supposed to be a celebration of victory party she wanted to host. In our apartment, after her company closed a major contract, I spent the entire day cleaning the place, rearranging furniture, preparing food, stocking drinks, making sure everything looked effortless. Madison loved when things looked effortless. She said perfection should appear natural, as if the universe itself bent to her expectations. People began arriving around 7. Her co-workers with perfect smiles, acquaintances whose names I kept forgetting, friends who had always treated me more like a background extra in her movie than a person with a story of his own. I kept myself busy refilling ice, passing around drinks, making sure nothing ran out. I didn't mind. I liked taking care of things. It felt like my way of contributing to her world. But while I was standing in the kitchen with a melting bag of ice pressed against my palms, I heard her voice slice through the music, colder, unmistakably annoyed. "Honestly," she said, "I don't even know why I'm still dating him." I froze. Not because I hadn't heard her criticize me before. She had a habit of teasing me in front of others, brushing it off as humor, but because her tone wasn't playful this time. It was dismissive. Final dot. She was standing on the balcony with 3 of her co-workers, all holding expensive cocktails I had mixed for them. They exchanged looks, half sympathy, half entertainment, thinking they were witnessing some playful venting. But I knew better. And when Madison laughed, an icy, brittle sound, I felt something sink inside my chest. "Nice guys don't get you anywhere," she said. "Nice doesn't pay for the kind of life I'm trying to build. I need a partner who's going places. Someone who actually matches my goals. Her words were like blunt instruments, careless and heavy. And yet, somehow, I continued standing there, letting the ice soak through the bag and drip onto my shoes. For a moment, I wondered if maybe I misheard her. Maybe it was the noise. Maybe it was the alcohol. Maybe it was stress. But then she really saw me, and, instead of guilt, embarrassment, or even surprise, she looked irritated, as if I'd interrupted her performance. She stepped forward, her voice rising just enough to command the room. "You'll never be good enough for me." "Ethan," the conversations around us died instantly. Glasses paused mid-air. Music thumped uselessly in the background. Dozens of eyes shifted toward us, waiting for the dramatic answer, the explosion, the scene. My chest tightened. My throat felt thick, but I wasn't going to shatter in front of them. So I forced a smile. Thin, almost nameless sand said quietly, "Maybe you're right." And then I turned, grabbed my keys, and walked out into the hallway, letting the door close behind me like the end of a chapter I hadn't known I'd been writing toward. As I walked to my car, the cool night breeze brushed against my face, and for the first time in years, I felt something like clarity. Not peace, not relief, just the unmistakable understanding that everything I thought I knew about my relationship was suddenly, painfully false. I didn't drive home that night. I didn't even drive anywhere specific. I just kept going through city streets, over the bridge, along the coastline, letting the silence swallow me whole. That was the night my old life ended, though I didn't realize it then. And it was the night the truth about Madison began unraveling, thread by thread, word by word, until there was nothing left but the pieces I'd been too blind or too hopeful to see. The morning after the party, sunlight seeped through the thin curtains of the budget hotel room I had checked into sometime around midnight. I didn't remember choosing the place. I only remembered driving until my hands stopped shaking. When I opened my eyes, my throat felt raw, my body heavy, like I'd been holding my breath for hours. I reached for my phone on the nightstand and saw the screen lit up with 47 missed calls and over 100 messages, all from Madison, except for a few from friends and one name that made my chest tighten for an entirely different reason. Natalie Brooks. Natalie was one of Madison's co-workers, of the few people who treated me like someone worth speaking to, not simply an accessory to Madison's ambitions. She had a quiet kind of presence, the type of person who observed more than she spoke. When her name appeared among the notifications, I hesitated. I didn't have the strength to deal with anyone's sympathy or apologies, not yet. But something about her message short calm, unlike the frantic paragraphs from Madison, made me open it. "Hey, I know you probably don't want to talk to anyone right now, but there's something you should know. Can I call you?" I stared at that message for a long time. My chest tightened. My mind ran through possibilities I didn't want to consider. Eventually, I typed back, "Not ready to talk. Just text it." Her typing bubbles appeared, disappeared, reappeared. Finally, her message came through. "Do you know what she said after you left?" My fingers felt stiff as I typed. What came next changed everything. She said, "Good. Now I don't have to break up with him before the Monaco trip. Brandon's going to be so much easier to deal with." I read it once, twice. A third time, Brandon, her supervisor, her mentor, the man she'd been working late with for months, the man she insisted was nothing more than a professional contact. My stomach dropped so hard I had to sit down. Something inside me fractured in a quiet, irreversible way. I knew Madison had been distant lately. I knew she had been preoccupied and irritated and dismissive, but betrayal had always been a line I didn't think she would cross. Despite everything, her sharp edges, her ambition that sometimes felt like a competition, there was a part of me that truly believed she wouldn't do that. But as I sat on the edge of the hotel bed with the cheap blanket pulled at my feet, I realized I had been wrong in every way that mattered. I don't know how long I sat there, just holding the phone, reading the message again and again, as if repetition could somehow make it make sense. Eventually, something cold and controlled settled over me, not anger, not even heartbreak, just clarity. I opened my laptop, logged into the shared cloud account Madison and I used for photos and documents, something she probably hadn't thought about in months. She never changed the password. She never expected me to look. She never expected me to break the role she had quietly assigned me, the quiet partner, the steady one, the supporting character, inside a folder labeled work trips. I found dozens of photos. Madison and Brandon at a beachfront hotel in Miami. Madison and Brandon at a rooftop bar in New York. Madison sitting on a bed in a robe. Champagne on the nightstand. Brandon's arm wrapped casually around her waist. The time stamps stretched. Back 9 months, my breath caught painfully in my throat. I stared at those photos until my hands started shaking, again not out of rage, but out of a strange numbness, a kind of emotional overload where everything blends together. Disbelief, humiliation, resignation. I closed the laptop and lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I didn't break anything. Instead, I made a decision, quiet and firm, the kind that doesn't need noise to carry weight. I would not let her destroy my life for 3 days. I stayed in that hotel room. I ordered takeout, ignored Madison's calls, and gathered every document I could think of: rent records, receipts, emails, bank transactions, text messages. I compiled everything into organized folders. I took screenshots. I saved duplicates. I laid out the truth with the precision of someone preparing for a battle they never wanted, but now had no choice but to fight. By the 4th day, I contacted a lawyer. He sounded calm and practical, the way I needed someone to be. Document everything, Ethan. Everything you've paid for, everything she said, anything that proves financial imbalance or manipulation. If this goes south, you want to be the one with facts, not emotions. So I did. And the more I documented, the more I realized how much I had covered for her. Rent, furniture, a $1,200 espresso machine she insisted would elevate our mornings, event outfits, trips, late bills, things she said she'd pay me back for but never did. I wasn't building a case out of spite. I was building protection, a lifeline out of a situation I didn't trust myself to navigate unprepared. When I finally returned to the apartment on day 4, I felt like someone else was walking. Someone quieter, steadier, and colder than the person who had left that night. The door clicked open, and there she was, Madison, sitting on the couch with puffy eyes and a face full of rehearsed remorse. "Where have you been?" she asked, her voice trembling but her posture still sharp. "I've been worried sick." I set my bag down. "Have you?" "Of course. You just walked out without saying anything. Ethan, you embarrassed me in front of everyone." That almost made me laugh. I embarrassed her. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't lose control. I simply asked, "What exactly did you want me to say, Madison?" She hesitated. "I was drunk. I didn't mean any of it." "Which part?" I asked, The part where I'm not good enough. The part where nice doesn't pay for your lifestyle. Or the part where Brandon is taking you to Monaco. Her face drained of color. Her lips parted, just slightly the smallest. Most involuntary confession. And suddenly, everything I had learned in the hotel room felt real. Concrete, final. For a moment, Madison didn't speak. She just stood there still as stone, eyes darting the way they always did when she was searching for the version of the truth that benefited her most. And when she finally opened her mouth, what came out wasn't guilt or remorse or even explanation. Who told you? She whispered, then stopped herself, as if she'd revealed too much. I didn't give her time to recover. Natalie, I said. That was a lie. Of course, I hadn't told Natalie I'd seen the photos. And I certainly hadn't told Madison I knew about the cloud folder. But I wanted to see if she would confess or if she would twist the story until it became something she could live with. She chose to twist. It's not what you think, she said quickly, the words tumbling out with that frantic energy she used when she was constructing a narrative. Brandon and I, those trips were work. Strictly work. The photos aren't Ethan. You're taking things out of context. I reached into my pocket, unlocked my phone, opened the cloud folder, and held up the picture of her and Brandon in matching hotel robes. His hand resting comfortably on her waist. Champagne on the nightstand. Her smile small and private in a way she hadn't smiled at me in months. What context would you like me to put this in? Her mouth fell open, but no explanation came. Just silence, the real kind. The kind that follows a lie when there's no lie strong enough to cover it. Get out, I said. Her head snapped up. This is my apartment too, according to the lease. Yes, I replied, but according to payment history. I've been covering 70% of this place for 2 years, and right now, Madison, what I need is space. So you're going to pack a bag and leave tonight. Then you're going to find somewhere else to stay while we work out how to end this cleanly. She stared at me, stunned, as if she had never considered that I might draw a line. You wouldn't do this to me. If you fight me, I said calmly, I will send the photos to HR at your company. I looked up the policy. They have a strict no-relationship rule between supervisors and subordinates. Watching the realization settle into her expression was like watching glass crack slow and sharp. She wasn't afraid of losing me. She was afraid of losing the life she'd built, the image she'd spent years polishing. What she said next wasn't an apology. It was the most honest thing she had ever said to me. You're not strong enough to follow through, she whispered, but she packed her bag, and she left 2 days later. I received a call from Natalie. She didn't bother with small talk. You need to hear this, she said, her voice low and urgent. Madison is telling people you were abusive, financially controlling, manipulative. My heart lurched. What? She wrote this long post on her private account. She's spinning the story. She's saying she escaped a toxic relationship, Ethan. People believe her. I felt cold, so cold it almost felt clean. Of course she was doing this. Madison didn't know accountability. She only knew reinvention. I can send you screenshots, Natalie offered. Please, I said. When they arrived, I scrolled through paragraph after paragraph of carefully constructed She never used my name, but she didn't need to. Everyone who knew us could fill in the blanks. It was the perfect strategy. Paint herself fragile, frame me as the quiet manipulator, and use the sympathy to shield her from the consequences she knew were coming. My lawyer advised me not to engage, not publicly, not privately. Document everything, he said. This is about protecting yourself, not winning a public argument. So I waited. 3 days later, Brandon made a mistake. He commented on her post something supportive, something about healing and courage. The kind of message that only confirmed everything people had been whispering. Someone at their company recognized his name. Someone reported it to HR within 24 hours. Madison and Brandon were both placed under investigation. Natalie updated me throughout the process like a quiet anchor in the storm. It's not looking good for them, she said. Apparently, people had been suspicious for months. The investigation took 2 weeks. In that time, I moved out of the apartment completely, paid the penalty, and found a small 1-bedroom across the city with creaky floors and sunlight that warmed the walls every morning. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't expensive, but it felt like a place where I could breathe. Then, one afternoon, Natalie called again. They fired them, she said. Both of them. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt tired. Later that evening, Madison called me for the first time since our confrontation. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail anyway. "This is your fault," she said. Voice sharp with a kind of rage she used to reserve for slow baristas or traffic jams. "You ruined my life because you couldn't handle my success. I hope you're happy." I deleted it. A week later, a message from an unknown number appeared. "This is Brandon. We need to talk." I blocked him. A month passed. Then another. I ran into one of Madison's old co-workers at a coffee shop, someone who had been at the party that night. Someone who had looked at me with judgment when Madison began her performance of victimhood. She approached me cautiously, guilt in her posture. "Hey," she said. I just wanted to apologize. For believing her story, for not asking what really happened. I nodded, not sure what to say. "She's doing the same thing to Brandon now," she added quietly, saying he manipulated her into the affair, that he used his authority. She's throwing him under the bus to save herself. I wasn't surprised. Madison's survival strategy had always been simple. Whoever was closest to her would burn first. Good luck to him. I said, 3 months after it all began. I finally felt like I had stepped into a version of myself I actually recognized. I got a promotion at work. I settled into my new apartment. I started going to the gym again, feeling my body slowly reconnect with a strength I had forgotten. I even went on a date not serious. Just coffee, but enough to remind me that I wasn't broken. Just healing. Natalie and I still talked occasionally. She apologized too many times. I told her she didn't need to, that telling me the truth had been more than enough. Sometimes, I still think about the night Madison stood in our apartment and told a room full of people that I'd never be good enough. And in a strange way, she was right. I wasn't good enough for her expectations, her ambition, her need to be constantly rising, even if she had to step on the people who held her up. But I'm good enough for myself now, and that's what matters.